I just want to
Hello.
there's feedback. I don't know why. One second.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for your patience. As we are about to start this meeting, we do have some technical challenges that we're trying to sort out. So if you can bear with us for another 2 minutes while we try to sort this out, then we will get on our way with the webinar. Thank you again for your patience, and hoping to see you soon.
Yeah, let me test it. All right. Okay, good. So I'm gonna
So good evening again, everyone, and thank you so much for your patience. One may say that, it is Murphy's Law at work, but I want to challenge that because Miss Nurse and Darvel and myself, we were on earlier and we tested everything and it worked. However, I guess Murphy's Law at work happening. So thank you again for your patience and hope you had a lovely Easter break. So my name is Paula Marcel Irish, and I am the chair of the Education Committee at SECU. I'd like to thank SECU's management team, the board, and other education committee members, and all of you today for joining today's session and for your patience as well as we get started. This is the Education Committee's last webinar for the period, and today our session will be Transitioning to Retirement, a comprehensive guide to understanding the National Insurance Scheme. Today's session is a collaboration between SECU and NIB. It is important, this session, for several reasons. Primarily because many of us will soon be approaching retirement, some maybe before others, nonetheless. All of us will be approaching retirement, and this is a significant life milestone for all of us. So we hope to receive valuable insights and gain a comprehensive understanding of the benefits and processes involved to help us navigate this transition successfully. Today, we are privileged to have an expert, none other than Miss Elena Nurse, and she will provide us with a comprehensive guide to help us understand the National Insurance Scheme in Trinidad and Tobago. She will help us to ensure that we are well prepared for this next chapter in our lives. Before I introduce Ms. Nurse, please allow me to remind you of a few house rules, especially for those who are joining this session for the very first time. Please ensure that your mic is muted throughout the presentation. Ms. Nurse will take questions at the end. Please feel free to type your questions in the chat box, or maybe if you have a little notepad that you can jot them down and we will take those questions after. This session is going to last for 1 hour and it will be recorded and uploaded on SECU's library section. So let me tell you a bit about Ms. Nurse before I invite her to present. She has dedicated over 20 years of her professional career to the National Insurance Board, playing a pivotal role in ensuring the effective administration and delivery of national insurance products and services. Ms. Nurse's journey at NIBTT started as a clerical officer at the Princestown Service Center. Following this, she spent 3 years at various service centers in South and Central Trinidad. Eager for new challenges, she then transitioned to the investment department where she spent several years. Ms. Nurse soon recognized her passion for serving people, so that with her communication skills, she ultimately found her niche in the corporate communications department, firstly as a public relations assistant before she was promoted to the position of public relations officer for education. As a public relations officer, Ms. Nurse is tasked with the responsibility of engaging stakeholders at different levels through seminars, webinars, workshops, panel discussions, outreach programs, symposia, and trade fairs. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Nurse to our session today, where she will delve deeper into this topic and equip us with the knowledge needed for a smooth transition to retirement. Let us listen attentively, let us engage and ask questions to get things clarified. Ms. Nurse, over to you. I will see you afterwards for the Q&A session. So I am now going to share my screen.
All right, good.
And you could tell me, are you seeing?
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay,
So, right. Right. So, right. From current slide, right. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. You know, national insurance started in 1972 with only three benefits: retirement, funeral grant, and sickness. Right? Fast forward 52 years later, the NIBTT offers 23 benefits. Retirement comprised two of them: the retirement pension and the retirement grant. So, you know, I know a lot of people question themselves, question the NIB, especially when they receive their pensions or their grants, and they wonder how it is calculated. You know, there are so many misconceptions about the retirement benefit, both the pension and the grants. And this is where I get my pleasure. In all the 23 benefits, the retirement grant and the retirement pension, I like to delve into retirement so people have a better understanding about retirement and how it is calculated and what they are in receipt of. All right, so Ms. Irish, you could start this slide. So as you would see, we offer what we call long-term and short-term benefits: sickness, funeral grant, maternity, special maternity. Those are short-term benefits, and they can be accessed and paid within 1 year. But retirement, invalidity, and survivors, those are long-term benefits. Invalidity, we stop at the age of 60, and then retirement and survivors, you get it until the person, after the person dies, survivors, until the recipient dies, and retirement from the age of 60 until death. All right? You can move along. So I want you all to look carefully. There's a reason why I put these slides up, right? And this would have been payments from 1972, from 1972 to 1980. Pay particular attention. There's a reason why I took the extra pain to put up all these slides so you all will really understand how retirement works. You can move along. So that's payments from 1972 to 80, and now 1980 to 1999. Move along. Then we have from 1999 to 2004, again, and from 2006, come down to, I think, 20, come down again. Right, so this is our last benefit rate in which changed in 2016. So if you look through, you would see we started with 8 classes, then we went to 12, and eventually we are at 16 classes, right? And we'll stop there for a while. I'll revisit, and we'll be able to connect the dots so you all will understand. So Ms. Irish, you can go ahead. What is really retirement benefit? Retirement benefit is money that a person collects at the end of employment after contributions are paid. Simply put, right? You know, from the time you start to work, you have that contract of service. You engage in a contract of service, working for at least $200. You have an employer, you are the employee, contributions come out of your salary every month. When it comes out, it is remitted. It comes out every week, but it is remitted to NIB on a monthly basis. When it's remitted to the NIB, it is accrued, and at the end of your retirement life, your work life, you are remunerated in the case of a retirement pension or retirement grant, depending on the number of contributions that you would have amassed. You can move on. All right, so we are looking at it. Retirement benefit comprise 2 components. Either you're qualified for the retirement pension or you're qualified for the retirement grant. If someone qualifies for a retirement pension, it simply meant that they would have amassed at least 750 contributions. Less than that, you have a retirement grant. The retirement grant is from 1 contribution to 749 contributions, right? So when we speak, when we speak about the retirement benefit, we speak of two aspects: the retirement pension, which is 750 or more contributions, and then you have the retirement grant, which is less than 750 contributions. So what is retirement age? You would have heard people speaking about retirement age at the age of 60. You know, right now, I am certain most of you would have heard that the NIB or the government wants to remove the NIB retirement age to age 65. That is nothing new. When the act came out in 1972, the retirement age was always 65. The thing about it, there is a facility that is offered where we can access the retirement benefit if you are between the age of 60 and 65. So the access retirement age is age 65, or any age less than 65, but not less than 60, at which an insured person ceases to be in insurable employment. What it simply means there is that the person ceases to work. So if someone is working and they attain the age of 60 and they're working in an organization where they are expected to retire at the age of 60, they can apply for the benefit. However, if the person is working in an organization where you work beyond the age of 60, you cannot apply and receive the benefit before you either stop employment or at the age of 65. So, you know, some organizations in Trinidad and Tobago, you retire at age 62, others you retire at age, let's say you retire at age 65. Those organizations in which people work, they cannot access the benefit before the age of 65, right? So in the organizations where they work to 62, they can access it at age 62, not before. And in organizations where you go to 65, they have to work until 65 before they can get the pension. If they choose to leave before, they can access it only then. But if they have to work until the age of 65, they can only access it at the age of 65. So again, organizations where people work till the age of 65, then and only then you can access your pension, your retirement benefit, whether it be the pension or the grant. So you can roll on, Ms. Irish. So that red button there shows the retirement age on the National Insurance Board. So an insured person who is aged 65 years will receive the benefit whether he or she stops working or not. So in institutions where persons are, like, let's say, a doctor, a nurse, where they work beyond the age of 65, they can work beyond the age of 65, but the NIB will pay them their retirement at the age of 65. All right? So they reach the age of 60 and they continue to work. At the age of 65, we will pay the benefit then. The insured person who is between the age of 60 to under 65 will receive the benefit if he or she ceases to be in insurable employment. So for persons who work with the NIB and most government institutions, they are supposed to retire at the age of 60. They can retire, receive the benefits, and then go back out to work, right? But once they retired, receive the benefits, and goes back out to work, no contributions come out of their salary. And I'll expand on that a little later. So you can roll on. So what is a retirement pension? It is periodic payment made for life for an insured person who has attained retirement age and has at least 750 weekly contributions. Go ahead. So when we look at contributions, we look at all of these. Paid contributions. Paid contributions are contributions that come out of our salary. At the end of the month, we know contributions come out of our salary and is remitted to the NIB. Those are paid contributions. Benefit credits. Benefit credits are contributions that the NIB pay on your behalf. So when a woman gets sick or goes on maternity leave, NIB pays your contributions for those 14 weeks of maternity leave. If someone gets sick and is away from work for 2 months and loses earnings for those 2 months, the NIB will pay your contributions. Not only pay you the benefit, but pay your contributions as well. But there are key things that must happen. If someone gets sick, earnings must be lost. A claim made because there's loss of earnings and compensation is being sought for the period that earnings is lost. NIB would pay you, compensate you for loss of earnings, being sick, and they would also pay your contributions. So when we process your claim for retirement, we take all contributions into account, right? All, from the inception of your employment to the end of your employment, whether you got sick 5 times, made 5 claims, whether you had 3 children, made 3 claims for maternity, whether you got injured and you were injured on the job and you made 5 or 10 employment injury claims during your work life, all those contributions would have been paid. Once a claim was submitted, the NIBTT pays your contributions and utilizes all when you retire. Voluntary contributions, however, is a facility that is offered for persons who were once employed, no longer employed, and would have made certain amount of contributions towards the NIB. Now, for you to be a voluntary contributor, you must have been working at some point, right? You must have been contributing at some point. And the NIB gives you 18 months from when you stop working, from your last employment, to come in and apply to be a voluntary contributor. And the last 2 years of wage that you work for or salary that you work for, we take an average of that, and we give you that average class in which to pay your contributions for yourself. And it's really aimed at those persons who would have been employed and would have left with money. Let's say they would have been given visa, like petrotrin workers who would have left with some money and have 500 contributions. You're 50 years old, you're 55 years old, and want to make that additional payment to ensure that you get qualified for at least the basic pension. So that is a facility that is offered. You have 18 months from the last date work in which to come in and make the application to be a voluntary contributor. And those contributions are utilized to pay your retirement benefit, right? So we use paid contributions, voluntary contributions, which are contributions that you can make on your own, but you must have been employed at some before. Paid contributions are contributions that your employer take out of your salary and remit to the NIB every month. And then we have benefit credits. Benefit credits are those contributions that are paid on your behalf by the NIB when a claim is submitted, right? So we utilize all contributions to process your retirement benefit. You can move down. So we all know from the 6th of October 2003, the minimum pension would have gone from what people would have qualified for. Let's say they qualified for $300, $450. It would have been moved up to $1,000. And then we would have seen persons in their own right qualifying for more than the $1,000. And then it was moved. In 2008, it was moved to $2,000. At present, the minimum pension is $3,000. And this came into effect on the 6th of January, 2012, where the basic pension, the lowest that somebody can get once they qualified with the minimum 750 contributions is $3,000. You can move down. Right. So the retirement pension, the minimum pension should be your entitled pension plus your added increments not amount to at least $3,000. The NIBTT will then add a subsidy to ensure that all you receive is no less than $3,000 per month. So at the end of this presentation, I want some things to be clear to you all, right? I want you all to know that, one, you cannot stop paying contributions after you made 750 contributions. It must continue. Two, that the outcome of your pension or your grant is not based on the number of contributions alone. The contributions are based on something. The contributions are based on your salary. So when someone says, Ms. Nurse, I made 2,000 contributions or 1,500 contributions, it says just very little or nothing, right? Because contributions is based on your salary, and then the salary is put into a class, and we have 16 different classes. And we will soon see, when you look at somebody who has 1,500 contributions in a particular class, their pension will be different to someone who would have had 1,500 contributions in another class. So what we want to eliminate is people saying that, you know, I made 1,500 contributions, I made 2,000 contributions. You have to be aware that the contributions were based on your salary, and the outcome of your pension is contributions, number of contributions, plus value of contributions, which determines the value of your pension. All right? So the minimum pension is $3,000 to date. Move down, please. So I want you to look at, we're going to look at how the pension is calculated. All right? We look at two different employees, and we look at 1972 to 2002. And the reason why earlier on I went through all the classes of contribution changes, well, some of them, most of them. We looked at 1972 to 1980, 1980 to 1991, 1991 to 2002, and so on and so forth. When we started in 1972, we started the highest class, the contributions were $2.45. And then we moved to $6.45. And only in 1990, it went to $30.33. To date, if you are the highest class is $138 per week. What we find people saying is they work 30 years, they work 40 years, they made over 1,500 contributions, and they are only getting $3,000. I want you all to understand today how it works. So we are looking at somebody who worked from 1972 to 2002, and from 1992 to 2022. Right away, you can see the rates, the amount of contributions, the value of the contributions that someone would have paid between 1972 and 2002 is different to what they would have paid in 1992 to 2022. In 1972, if you were contributing to national insurance, you're in the highest class, which was back then was 8 classes, you would have contributed $2.45 in the highest class. In 2022, if you are in the highest class, it's $138. So when you're looking at contributions back in those days as compared to now, the value would be higher. So we are looking at 2 employees in those 2 periods, which is a 30-year period, and they would have contributed 1,500 contributions in the respective periods. So we first look at the first period. 1972 to 2002, those are 30 years, right? So in this 30-year period, we have persons who, the first thing we do is look at the average of those 1,500 contributions. So first, the number of contributions, we take into consideration all the total number of contributions and find an average. The reason we find an average is that your salary would have fluctuated during different periods. If it never changed, and it would have changed because we went from 8 classes to 12 classes, right? So if it is that you started to work in 1972 and you retired 2001, it would have been in the same classes. If it in the same set of classes. From 2002, it would have been, you would have been in class 12. So what we have to find first is an average of all those contributions. When I started to work some years ago, the salary that I received then is not what I receive today. So what we find first is an average. The average puts you into a class. So, Ms. Irish, can you move to the other slide, please? The average gives you a class. I want you all to pay attention to see what I'm saying. Someone with 1,500 contributions, when they started to work in 1972, they retired in 2002. Firstly, we find an average of all those contributions. The average of all those contributions would put them in class 5, right? Because they would have had paid in class 2, class 8, class 3, class 4. So we find an average. So when we look at all your contributions, the first thing is we find an average. When we find an average, it puts you into a class. So the average of those 1,500 contributions from 1972 to 2002 would have put that person into class 5. All right? So move back, please, Ms. Irish, to the previous slide. So you get 1,500 contributions. What is done, we take away the first 750. So you hear people speak about having 750 contributions. If we just work with 750 contributions, we'll have to heavily subsidize your pension. So what happens to the other contributions beyond 750? It is divided into groups of 25. So 1,500 contributions, we find an average, we put you into a class. Then we minus 750 contributions. When we minus 750, it gives us an additional 750, which we divide into blocks of 25. So in the case of this person, employee A, when we minus this first 750, it gives us an extra 750. When we divide that, we get 30 groups of 25. All right? So we have to find your pension. Because of the value, the small value, because your salary was smaller back in those days, we put you into class 5. The basic pension in class 5 is $1,135.12. But remember, you have 30 additional increments. So when we look at the 30 additional increments, the basic pension has a basic increment value. All right? So, Ms. Irish, I just want you to go back to the other slide that you were on. So the basic pension here of $1,135.12 has a basic increment value of $20.89. So to get your earned pension or your basic pension, your earned pension, we have to multiply it. So we multiply 30 by $20.89, and it gives us $626.70. So we add that, the increment, the total of the increment, to your basic pension, and you get your earned pension. So for persons who would be in receipt of $3,000, more likely than not, their pension would not be $3,000. In a lot of instances, it is subsidized. So once we get your earned pension, in this employee A's case, is $1,761.82. But the NIBTT must pay the basic pension. So what we do, we have to take your earned pension away from the paid pension and subsidize it. So most times you hear people say, I'm getting the $3,000 a month pension. When they submit their claim for retirement, the NIB must find out their basic pension to know how many extra increments they have, to find out the total increment value, add it to your basic pension to get your earned pension to see if it has to be subsidized. Now, depending on the salary that the persons would have worked for and the number of contributions that they would have had, some have to be subsidized more. Some persons' pension may be subsidized by $10, $15, $100, while some will be subsidized by much more. And I'll give you an example. Just not too long ago, somebody that knows me, he would have worked as a janitor in a primary school, reached out to me and he said that he was getting $3,000 a month pension and he would have worked for over 30 years, right? He forgot that when he was working, his pension, the payments were small, $2.45, $6.45, right? So I had to remind him the value of the contributions that he would have paid to the NIB, right? Notwithstanding the fact that he would have made over 1,500 contributions, but because of his salary and the value of the contributions that were made, that were remitted for him to the NIB, his pension, his earned pension would have been $19.41. And it was subsidized. All he was thinking about is the number of years he worked and the number of contributions he would have paid. He didn't realize that his salary was small and the contributions that he made were small. So in that regard, his pension was $1,941 and it was subsidized. All right? In the case of employee B, where you have that person worked from 1992 to 2022. So they would have worked between the periods of class 8 classes, 12 classes, 16 classes, right? And they would have had a higher salary. So because they had a higher salary, we would have had to find an average. So that average would have put that person into class 11. Class 11 basic pension is $2,632.50. The increment value is $49.14. Back to the previous slide. Right? So in calculating that person's pension, the same 1,500 contributions, you take away the first 750 and then you divide it by 25 to get 30 increments. So we look at the basic pension. The basic pension is $2,632.50. And the increment is 30 increments. They have 30 extra increments, just like the person, just like employee A. We multiply that by the value of the increment, which is $49. Go back, go forward. Right, which is $49.14. So when we add both of them, we get $4,106.70. So the basic pension is $2,632.50 plus the increment, which is $1,474.20, give you the earned pension of $4,106.70. Please note that there's no subsidy here, right? So what, in essence, what this person would be paid is $4,106.70. So persons who would have amassed a number of contributions, 1,500, 2,000 contributions, and the value of those contributions they ended up in higher classes, right, where the pension went over $3,000. The NIBTT pays exactly what is calculated at. All right, the highest pension to date that I'm aware of is around $5,400. All right, and then that again, that would be based on the value, the person's salary, and it would have meant that the contributions that were remitted on that person's behalf to the NIB were very big contributions. They were either in class 14, 15, 16. And in that regard, their pensions would be higher. So in essence, before NIB pays pensions to anybody, we have to go through, we have to process every claim, see what is the basic pension, add a subsidy if it falls below a certain amount, and what was it? Okay, yeah, and if it goes over a certain amount, and if it falls under, it will be subsidized. All right. All right, so we can go on, please, Ms. Irish, to move on from that side. All right, so we also have the retirement grant. What is the retirement grant? We already spoke about it being less than 750 contributions. So someone who qualified for retirement grant would have had less than 750 contributions. Is a lump sum payment made to an insured person who has attained a retirement age but has not acquired at least 750 contributions. Now, I want this to resonate with people, and you all will have seen it is not an option. It's either you have 750 contributions and qualify for the basic $3,000 a month pension, or you have less than 750 contributions and would have qualified for the grant. So persons would ask, is it an option? Can I take the retirement grant or the retirement pension? It's not an option, it's what you qualified for. All right, so the grant is a lump sum payment, and you'll see how it is calculated. So you can move, Ms. Irish. So the retirement grant is equal to 3 times the value of the contributions paid, subject to a minimum of $3,000. Move on. Down. So we're looking at how the retirement grant is calculated. We look at 600 contributions, right? Each accumulated, 2 employees worked for 12 years, accumulated 600 contributions, but worked during different periods, similarly to the pension. So employee A would have worked between 2007 and 2019, employee B between 1980 and 1992. So what we look at is the value of those contributions. In more recent times, the contributions value were higher. So we look at the value of the employee B's contribution from 1980 to 1992. And their contributions, 600 contributions value, would have been $4,000. Now, I want you all to remember, to every dollar that is taken out of your salary, the employer matches it with $2 and remits $3 to the NIB. So when we are calculating the grant, we look at the value of your contribution, which is $4,000. The employer owned would be twice the value, which is $8,000. And then we add both of them and multiply it by 3, which is $36,000. All right. In employees A's situation, you have somebody who would have worked between 2007 and 2019. The employee's contributions would be, the value of those contributions would have been $25,000. Employee B, the employer's part would be twice times the value, 50,000. So you have 50 plus 25 is 75,000. Multiplied by 3, which is 225,000. So if someone looks at the value of their contributions, 600 contributions, which is valued $4,000 in one instance, and in the other 25,000, it is 9 times the value of your contributions that you get in the form of a retirement grant. So retirement grant, if you divide 4 into 36, you'll get 9. And if you divide 25 into 225, you also get 9. So persons who would have worked and amassed 600 contributions, whatever the amount of contributions, below 750 contributions, the value of their contributions would be 9 times what they receive in the form of a retirement grant. All right. But once someone qualified or was entitled to qualify for retirement grant, and God forbid they die, their survivors will not get survivor's benefit because they would have received 3 times or 9 times, 3 times the value of their contributions plus their employers, or 9 times the value of their contributions. So the retirement grant is based on the number of contributions below 750. All right? And it is paid as a one-off benefit payment. Now, people often say they would have received a lump sum and a monthly pension. Anybody who would have received a lump sum and a monthly pension, it would have meant that it was retroactive payments repaid in a lump sum. So that person would have applied late and they would have received retroactive money paid in a lump sum. All right? And then their monthly pension. The NIB does not pay a lump sum and a pension. Those would have been retroactive payments, right? So people usually would say, you know, I get a lump sum and I get a monthly pension. It would have been retroactive payments. They would have gotten received in a lump sum. All right? So it's either you qualify for the grant or the pension. Right? You can move on, please. All right? So the minimum retirement pension. Should your entire pension plus your increments amount to at least $3,000, the NIB will then add a subsidy to ensure that you receive no less than $3,000 a month, as was seen just now. All right? The retirement grant, however, on the other hand, would be 3 times what the employer plus the employee put, subject to a minimum of $3,000. So someone who has at least one contribution, who made one contribution, would get at least $3,000. We don't pay less than $3,000, right? So what if someone retires and goes back out to work? An insured person who is between the age of 60 and 65 and has already received their retirement benefit, that is a retirement pension or retirement grant, then returns to work will not have contributions deducted from his or her wages. His employer only will make contributions in Class Z to provide coverage for injury allowance only. But you know, we live in Trinidad and we are called Trinidadians. So here's what some of the things that people do. They will know beforehand that they are required to come back out to work beyond the age of 60 or between 60 and 65. They would tell their employer, put a last date work for me, I've seen it, and then they would stay on for a month, 2 weeks, and then go back out to work. When they go back out to work, they get national insurance and the employer, and they go back out to work and they get in their salary. If you know beforehand that you're going back out to work beyond the age of 60, you go back out to work because national insurance is, the retirement age is age 65. If it is that you retire and 6 months down the road, your employer call you back because they need you to work. That is not wrong. You can go back out to work. You already received your retirement pension or grant. You received your retirement benefits. You go into the NIB, get a letter stating that you are in receipt of a benefit. When you get that letter, you carry it to your employer. The employer does not take out contributions from your salary, but remits to the NIB whatever contributions in Class Z based on the salary that you are being paid. And that is to cover you for if you get injured on the job. That's the only benefit you can get, right? So once someone gets injured on the job and they would have been paid in Class Z because they retired and received their retirement money from NIB, NIB will compensate them via through an injury allowance, an injury benefit claim, and injury allowance will be paid. All right? What if someone dies and never made a claim for retirement? What would happen then is that the monies would be paid to your estate. So once an application is made, we pay the money to your estate. All right? So someone who would have died and would have qualified for $3,000 a month pension, but did not make the claim, all right, would be paid, the estate would be paid the value of their pension up to the date of death. So let's say they qualified for pension on age 60, never made a claim, died at age 62. Their pension, the estate will be entitled to $3,000 by 24 months, which is $72,000, right? So their estate would be allowed that money and survivor's benefit claim. If, on the other hand, the person had less than 750 contributions and will have qualified for a lump sum of grant of, let's say, $250,000, we would pay the estate that lump sum of money and no survivor's benefit. All right? So, Ms. Irish, you can go on. Go down. So it says exactly that. If the person dies after age of 60 and was qualified for retirement grant, less than 750 contributions, their estate will be granted the retirement grant payment. If the person dies after the age of 60 and would have qualified for pension, that is more than 750 contributions, their estate will be granted any retirement payment up to the date of death. Example, someone dies making 750 contributions on their 61st birthday, their estate will benefit from 12 months of pension, which would be equal to $36,000, and then the monthly survivor's benefit. Now, you have 1 year in which to make your retirement benefit. If you make it 2-3 years later, you must give us good cause why you are applying late, and then it will be paid. All right? That is the only benefit that you do not lose from the inception. Some of the other long-term benefits, they are prorated from the date of the application is submitted. And for the short-term benefits like sickness, maternity, employment injury, after 1 year, we will receive, and an application is made, it will be disallowed because you have a time frame of 1 year. With retirement, there's a little bit of flexibility. You come after a year, you give us good cause why you are applying late, you get it retroactively from the date of retirement. All right? So you can move on. Right. So we have what we call reciprocal benefits, reciprocal arrangements. We have reciprocal arrangements between ourselves and Canada and ourselves and CARICOM countries. So between Canada and Trinidad, there's an agreement where once you make less than 750 contributions, you either lived in Canada or worked in Canada, you would qualify for the reciprocal pension. It would be prorated. It would not be the $3,000, right? But we would take the number of years you worked over there or the number of years you lived over in Canada and pay a reciprocal pension. It will not interfere with any benefits that you have to get under the Canadian system. Likewise, if you worked in any Caribbean country, CARICOM country, and you contributed the contributions that you made in Trinidad and the number of years you worked in Barbados, Jamaica, St. Vincent, St. Kitts Nevis, you are entitled to a prorated reciprocal pension. All right? So it's an agreement between ourselves and Canada and ourselves and CARICOM countries. Once a person worked or lived in Canada or worked in any CARICOM country would have made contributions, they would be entitled to a reciprocal pension. All right? And for reciprocal payments, you can qualify for either retirement or invalidity benefits. All right? And it is paid until you die. Some of the other things that we have with retirement is once you would have left and migrated, let's say you left and you went to the States or you went to England, we have what we call life certificates. The life certificates must be submitted in June and December of each year. For persons who reside in Trinidad, it is no longer a requirement. All right? So for persons who reside abroad, June and December every year, the payment stops and it is reactivated upon receipt of the life certificate. Only when the life certificate is received, there would be continuity in payments, right? For persons who live in Trinidad, once again, it's not a requirement, all right? Because we receive information from Ministry of Legal Affairs when someone dies or through a funeral grant claim that is made, we know then that we can stop your payments. So on a daily basis, we receive a list of deaths from Ministry of Legal Affairs, and we will go through the system and take out those persons, or if a funeral grant is made, all right? Another thing you all have to be aware of, the NIB pays your retirement claim on the 16th of every month. 16th, yes, some people get it on the 15th or before, but it is to be made payable from the 16th day of every month. So if someone dies before the 16th, more likely than not, the person who made the claim for funeral grant, or if it's a joint account holder, the NIB will write that person to remit the monies that were paid for that person because they died before the 15th. If, however, they die after the 15th, the money was due to them on the 16th. So we don't write and ask for it to be paid back. Another thing is that we pay it in any currency that you ask for. So if you move to the States, we pay it in US. If you move to England, we pay it in pounds. But there is a transaction fee that we take out to either have the bank draft or the wire transfer made. We will take out that money and then send the rest to you. So, preparation for retirement. The first thing you do is request a contribution statement. That is the NI 183, right? And NI 165. The 183 gives us, is just requested in the statement. The 165 gives us your employment history, all right? If contributions are inconsistent, you need to provide alternative evidence to update your statement, such as TD4s, pay slips, record of service, pay record cards, pension and leave records. All right, but the first course of action is completed at 165. What we will do, the NIB will use the employers that you put on that, on the list, the employers that you list on the 165. We'll go to those employers' files, pull the file, look for your contributions, add them. And then you will provide TD4's pay slips, record of service, pay record cards, pension and leave records. We will not keep them. We will take copies, return it to you, and use the information to update your contribution statement, right? All of the above documents should be stamped and signed by the employer before being remitted to the NIB. But I will share something with you. For those persons who are not close to retirement, it is important to get a statement of contributions and look at it, see how many contributions are missing, and you can get the information, the alternative evidence. But for those persons who are closer to retirement, what I would suggest is that once you get the statement, they are missing contributions, hold on to at the point in time that you are making your claim for retirement, submit all documents. If it is that you have payslips or TD4s for missing periods of contributions, you submit it together with the application for retirement and all the other documents that are required. In the case of a man, they would ask for your birth certificate, in the case of a woman, birth certificate and marriage certificate, decree absolute if divorced, things like that. So, Ms. Irish, you can move down again, please. All right. So, in order to make your claim for retirement, you must make an appointment 3 months before the retirement date or last date worked, right? And you can make the appointment at appointments@nibtt.net. What I would urge you to do as well, check online for guidelines and checklists to assist in submitting all required documents. So you go into benefits, you go into retirement benefits, and then it would give you a checklist of all that you need to submit. So once you have that, and you get a copy of your contribution statement, you see missing contributions, you get the alternative evidence together. When you get your appointment date, you go in at that point and you make your claim. And you submit the documents together with your claim. All right? Ms. Harris, right. You can move down again. Before I start to take question and answers, I will just like to go through the NI-82 briefly with you all. Right? I didn't pull it up, but I just want to tell you some of the things that we look for on an NI-82, right? Most of the times, there's a section we ask you to list all your employers. What we ask for is a list from the time you leave. From the time you leave school, right? This will help us to be able to access all the employers that you have, because sometimes people would leave at the age of 16, they would work at KFC, they'll work at Cummings, they'll work at different companies, and it's not until they would actually start to work at some place, let us say they start to work at NIB or Republic Bank, they start to take those contributions into account. So we want to see all where you worked prior to, from the inception, to see if we can go into those employers' files and find all your contributions if they're not recorded for you, right? During periods of unemployment, we also ask you to state all the times that you were employed, whether you were on no pay leave, study leave, vacation leave, where there are missing contributions. So sometimes people will say, you know, NIB contributions are not in order. But when you start to probe, when you start to ask them questions, they would say, you know, from 1982 to 1985, I was on study leave. And in that 2002 to 2003, I was on no pay leave and things like that. So you have to help us to help you, right? Try to remember all the places of employment. What I try to tell people, use major milestones, use major events. Like when the coup occurred, where was I? When I got married, where was I employed? When I had my first child, where was I employed? Because what you find is a lot of people would have worked so many places, they don't remember all, right? I can give you an example, somebody that worked with us as a contract worker. He worked in my department. He left probably about 10 years ago, but he would have changed at least 10 employers within those 10 years. And it's not no lie, right? So what I try to tell him is that when you leave employment, the employer is supposed to issue you with a termination certificate. Try and keep those termination certificates together so it will give you a good idea of where you worked, and the period in which you worked with that employer. In the absence of that, try to remember, try to help us to help you. Now, we will have the information, but you need to provide it to us, because you know what? Sometimes if an employer put a digit off, that may throw someone else's contributions from Republic Bank into National Insurance, or from National Insurance into Scotiabank. So we need to get the information clear. All right? Periods of no pay leave, if you migrated and returned to Trinidad, self-employment, you know, if you had to further your education, all those information you need to put for us. All right? With regards to the your banking information, we always ask, when you're making your claim for retirement, we need a bank statement, right? In the absence of a bank statement, and you want it to be posted to your home, we need a utility bill, and it must be within the last 3 months. All right? So we need utility bill in the case of postal. In the case of banking information, we need a bank statement, or just something to verify from the bank to verify your account number, right? What I can say is that we don't need to see your transaction details, how much money you have on your account. Once we can see that account number to verify it, that is all we need. All right. Before I stop to take questions and answers, Anne, is there anything that you would like to add before we take the questions?
No, Alina, you hit everything.
All right. All right. So, Ms. Marcel Irish, I think we could stop for some questions now. All right. So, Marlon said.
Thanks.
You could, yeah. So you can.
Yes, thanks so much. Yes, I just stopped sharing my screen so that I can go to the chat to look for questions. But I must say that this has been a very enlightening presentation. I mean, very educational as well. And I am hoping that all our members who are on today have learned a lot, if not for themselves, for their family members. So let me just go to the questions, and we will take it from there. So one question is this from Cheryl Ann. She says, you mentioned that we should mention all the places of employment. If the establishment was destroyed by fire in the coup in 1990, do we name that establishment or employment as well? also, if it was a contracted job for a few months, do we name that employer as well when the time comes?
Yes, because we may have those contributions on our system, right? So you need to give account for those contributions. All right?
Okay, good. So basically it is any place of employment, once contributions are made, all need to be listed.
Mm.
Okay, and next, this one is from Marlon. His mom was told years ago that she was not entitled to any payment. He's not sure who gave her that information, but based on what you have just shared with us, Miss Nurse, will his mom be entitled to a retirement grant? She worked at Hilo. She's currently 79. Can the family still file a claim for her retirement grant?
Of course, of course, of course. And
Okay.
what he can do is he can reach out to me. I will drop my email. You can share my email address and you can email me the
Yes.
details and I will pass it on so they can check the system, see if she has contributions and make the claim so she can receive her grant. All
Okay,
right?
I'm sure that would be useful. I will share the email address. We do have a thank you email that we send out to all participants at the end. So in that thank you email, we are going to send a link to the recording, today's recording, so persons can go back and listen. And we will also share your email address, Ms. Nurse, so that persons can reach out if they wanted to verify anything in particular. So as we move on, comments and questions are coming in. So Donna is saying, thank you very much. The session has been very informative. And her question is, what is a record of service?
All right. A record of service is usually given to government workers, public servants, for the years that they would have worked, right? So that's a document that comes from the public service for persons who would have worked for a particular time period. Yeah.
Okay, so it's really for public sector employees.
Yes, public
All right.
sector.
Moving on, another comment, excellent presentation. What happens if someone dies before 60 and would have made their contributions?
All right. So one of the pillars of national insurance is redistribution. All right. So what happens, unfortunately, if nothing was accessed, the money is left and redistributed to other recipients. Now I can tell you something. If it is that that person, two things can happen, several things can happen. First, if the person, let's say, was under 60 and unable to work, they can have accessed they can access an invalidity benefit, which is a pension as well until you reach the age of 60, and then it's converted. If they die before 60 and had no beneficiaries, mother, father, children under the age of 19, the money stays in the fund. If it is that they were married with children and parents, dependent parents, they can access survivor's benefits. All right?
Okay, so just to repeat, if they did not attain the age, if they passed away before 60, then the family, wife, children, etc., they would be able to access survivor's benefit.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes. And if they have none of the above, the money stays to be redistributed.
Stays in the fund. Okay.
Okay. And I must mention, out of we have close to 300, we have over 100, close to 200,000 benefit recipients. So that's people like disablement, survivors, death benefit, retirement comprise about 80%. So we have over 100,000 persons at present collecting the minimum 3,000 retirement pension.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that reminder. So just to remind members as well that this presentation, the recording, will be uploaded on SECU's website. You are also going to receive a thank you email from SECU, and in that thank you email, you're going to get the link to today's presentation, as well as Mrs. Nurse's email address. I saw a hand up. I think it was Miss Sandra. I'm not sure if she wants to come off mute and ask a question, but we do have other questions. So I'll give her a couple of seconds to see if she wants to ask a question verbally. And if not, we will continue with the questions that came into the chat. Okay, so in the interest of time, I will go ahead. Another question came in. If I worked for a company for 16 years and then I left that company and opened my own business, will I still get my pension?
Of course, the contributions there are there until you turn age 60 and can access either the pension or the grant. So it will be right there waiting on you.
Of course, based on the number of contributions that were made, either 750 or and above or less. Right.
Or less, okay. Yes.
Right. Another question. Why are there so many missing contributions on statements requested from NIB? This person has come across a number of persons who show this to them.
All right. Well, it could be a number of different things. What I've discovered, just in completing the 184, which is the form that the employer remits the contributions on, if one digit is different, it throws off the entire thing, right? Then it will have times that it takes a little while to update, right? But what we do
Miss Nurse, I'm losing you. Hello. Uh-oh, I'm wondering what is happening on her end, Miss Nurse. You're coming across very muffled. I'm not sure if anyone else is hearing the same thing as I am.
Miss Nicholas?
You are coming back. Yes, we missed you. We missed what you contributed a short while ago. The audio went. Oh, looks like we have lost her altogether. Let's give her a couple minutes to see if she is going to rejoin. However, I must say that this has really been an excellent presentation, one that I'm sure we have all benefited from in terms of the information. And while we await Mrs. Nurse, it is important that preparation for retirement, she mentioned the two forms, the NI 183 and the 165, definitely we need to start thinking. I think she's back, Miss Nurse?
Right, so I'm back here.
Yes,
so
yes, we lost you.
Asking, remind me of what I was talking about.
She was, so this question was, she's noticed or she has heard of persons who mentioned that they are missing contributions on the statement.
Right, so first to begin with, what we ask for is the person to complete a 165 where we go to the employer's records, get their contributions, add them, and in the absence of that, we ask for additional information through submitting this thing, the alternative evidence, pay slips, TD4s, pay records, and that kind of thing.
Okay.
All right. But the first course of action for missing contributions is NI 165, which you would fill out for us, and we will take the information from this. Okay.
So what I'm understanding, Ms. Nurse, is that the onus is really on the employee, either present or past employee, to get all the information that is needed for these forms, and NIB would only produce information on the statements based on what was entered. So if there are missing elements or contributions, it means that the employee themselves would not have included everything, if I'm understanding based on what you have presented.
In some instances, yes.
In some instances, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
All right. So another kudos to you, Miss Nurse, in that this person is saying that they have a lot of family and friends who would benefit from a session like this. So keep the education alive, because it is so important for us here in Trinidad and Tobago. Another question, can a letter from an employer be used to update statements instead of the TD4s?
No, and I will let Ms. Hamlet shed some light on that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Anne, are you there? All right, I'm not here. She's in the room next door. But what we need, when we're using, we need information to see the salary that was remitted for you during the period that you worked and the contributions that were taken out, right? So a letter stating that you worked for NIB from 1972 to 1980 will not suffice. We need to know the salary that you worked for, so we can take out the contributions in the respective classes. Another thing is, if an employer, if you're making a claim for retirement and the employer is no longer in existence, you need to write a letter for us to know that the employer is no longer in existence, because on the NI-82, the last one of the things we ask for is the employer to sign off the form. Right? And if the employer is not available, then the form cannot be signed off.
Okay, so just for the benefit of everyone on the call, in the event some person started working, let's say many years ago, and don't have access to their TD4s, where can they get a copy of this TD4 to include on the application?
From the employer. The employer is your TD4, right, every year, right? So from the employer.
But
and in some instances, it is done duplicate. If you save your copy, which is also stamped, you can bring that into us.
Yeah. Do you think the BIR might be able to, because I'm just thinking persons who started, let's say, to work about 30 or so years ago, they may not have kept their duplicate. The employer may have either gone out of business or closed down. So I'm just trying to understand where these persons can get a copy of this TD4 to include in the application.
Well, probably you can try Board of Inland Revenue.
Board of Inland Revenue. Okay, no problem. There is a question from Luke. He has his hand up, so I would allow him to speak. And then there are other questions that we will continue afterwards. Luke, would you like to come off mute and ask your question?
Thanks for the opportunity. I just wanted to direct your attention that there are also questions in the Q&A on the live feed.
Okay, thank you.
I'm seeing, yeah.
Yes. All right. That's it, Luke?
I guess.
So let me go over to the Q&A and we will take some questions from there. Okay, so I requested a contribution statement a few months ago and discovered that for the last 13 years, my contributions were going to my husband's NIB number. This person came in a few weeks ago with her husband, and the staff at NIB saw all the contributions on his account. She had to get a number of letters from past employers, which she also brought in. However, she was told that this process is going to take many months, maybe up to a year, to be rectified, and she doesn't understand when these contributions were visible, and he confirmed that they were not his. She doesn't understand this when the contributions were visible, and he confirmed that they were not his contributions. So I'm not sure if you'd be able to shed some light on that, or even Ms. Hamlet, who is on the call.
All right, so what she was saying, there were contributions that were paid.
Yeah, her contributions, 13 years of contributions, they were going to her husband's NIB number. So they came into the NIB to try to rectify it. To do that, they had to get letters from past employers, etc. So she brought in all of that, and the rep at NIB told her that it will take maybe up to a year to get it rectified. So that is what she's not understanding, because the contributions were visible, and her husband was able to confirm that he did not make those contributions to his NIB number.
So I would say at present, we are trying to focus on persons who are closer to retirement. And that in itself is a lot. So once that has been dealt with, they are going to take those others that are not so close to retirement. So it would be dealt with, but focus at present is being given to those who are closer to retirement.
Okay. Might you, just to add on to the conversation, might you know then if in her instance, if they would go into a queue, because I imagine that every day persons, those who are approaching retirement and those who are not approaching retirement as yet, are coming in. So I'm just trying to understand for her benefit what the process is in terms of would her her situation will it continue? Would it be pushed back, or would it be in a queue, whether or not more persons come in?
It would be pushed back, right? But it will be dealt with, but there are certain amount that they want to deal with first, and then they will deal with the others. It will take an entire year. It might take about 6 months or so, 6 to 8 months, but it will be dealt with. All right?
Okay.
What she can do,
yes.
she can reach out to me via the email, and I will try and see what I can do to explain.
I think that might be, I think that might be useful for her. Okay, so just moving on to some of the questions in the Q&A, and some persons are putting up their hand. Ms. Nuz, how are you for time? Because this is very interesting, and I'm trying to accommodate as many questions as possible.
I will stay, I could stay until probably we answer most of them.
7:30. Okay, no problem. So let's go. Can you tell us a bit more about voluntary contributions? Who is entitled to survivors' benefits?
All right. So voluntary contributions are contributions that I said you can make on your own, but you must have been working, because what they do is look to see your last wage or salary, and they put you in that category. So let us say you used to work at the NIB and your contract came to an end and you are waiting employment, and it takes sometimes it takes 2-3 years before you get another job. You have the opportunity to come in to make voluntary contributions, pay for yourself. So what we would look at is the last 2 years of wage or salary that you would have worked for, find an average, put you into a class, and you come in and you pay for it for yourself. It really works for those persons who would have been offered VSEP and separation packages, who would have money and can use that money to pay something small every month towards enhancing their position to receive a retirement pension.
Okay, right. And can you speak a bit on the survivors' benefits in terms of who is entitled to that?
All right, so entitled survivors' benefit now, you cannot nominate a beneficiary in NIB. The only person you could nominate is a common law spouse. So if a man lives with a woman, he can, in a common law union, he could nominate her. Or if a woman lives with a man in a common law union, she can nominate him. That is the only way you can nominate. Other than that, your recipients are fixed. Children under the age of 19, your dependent parents, and your wife, legal or common law, married or common law. And it makes the process a lot easier if the person nominates the individual. If not nominated, it takes a lot more effort when we have to pay that person's survivor's benefit. All right? So, but if the person was nominated, half the job is already done.
Okay.
All right? So again, your beneficiaries under NIB is stated. Children under the age of 19, your parents, your parents, your wife, legal or common law. The only way other people can get is if you die and you left money inside. So a woman is pregnant and she dies, all right? A sibling brings in letters of administration and we pay that money to the estate, all right? That's the only way. Other than that, your beneficiaries are set.
Right.
Married, common law, children, parents, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. For those persons who are approaching retirement, let's say they have 3 more months to go before retirement, what do you suggest in terms of getting the process started?
So I would suggest 4 months before your retirement date, you go online and you select a date 3 months before your retirement date. All right? So you can submit your claim 3 months before you retire. But 4 months before your retirement date, you go online, get your claim, get a date, make with 3 months before your retirement date, and then you go to our website, check our guidelines and checklists, and see all the documents you need. You need your completed form, your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, a deed poll, a decree absolute, all those things, whatever you need, you have them together with the alternative evidence, because you would have received a copy of your contribution statement, and there were a few missing. You got the evidence, you got your TD4s, pay slips, and you bring it into NIB. In saying so, someone told in the chat, ask if you can apply for your contribution statements online. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. All right.
All right. We have 2 persons. Thank you, Ms. Nurse. We have 2 persons with their hands up, so we will take those questions and then we will go back to the Q&A and the chat. Anthony? Anthony, are you still there? As though I heard something.
We have tomorrow.
Okay. Rhonda?
Hello, good afternoon, good evening.
Hi, Rhonda, good evening.
Hi, this is Rhonda. Thanks for having my question taken. My question is, my son was working with the Ministry of Education, and then he was working with social, what they call it, Children's Authority. However, he's no longer working. So I was telling him, I think he should continue making his payments. But he said, Mom, I'm not working. So how am I going to do that? And I said, well, you could just go into NIB and find out how to do it. So what I want to find out is how, what does he have to bring in when he comes? I know you mentioned something about that just now, but I don't think you made mention of what documents they have to come with. Is it that you just come into NIB and make the deposit?
No, well, they have a form that you have to fill out, and the form will have the required documents, the documents that you require. All right. And, once you bring in all the documents that they ask for, whether it's probably payslips from the last 2 years to give an average of how you must pay, your birth certificate, and other documents, you bring it in and we will look at it, and if it is that you meet the qualifying criteria, we accept you. If not, we don't.
So is there somewhere online? Sorry, is there somewhere online he can go to find out what documents he has to work with?
Yes, our website, you could go to voluntary contributions and it will give him much more information.
Voluntary contributions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, what I'm going to do in the same thank you email of which I spoke earlier, we're also going to include the link to NIB's website, and in that link, when you click on it, you'd be able to find the different forms, whether it's voluntary contributions, preparation for retirement, etc. So we're going to include that for you as well.
No problem. you.
Okay,
And also, I have one more question, if you would permit me.
Mhm.
Right. So my brother, he was working here in Trinidad, but he worked for probably just a couple years, and I know for sure he was paying NIS. However, he migrated a couple years ago, probably not a couple, about 20, 25 years ago. He migrated and he did not remember to come in to submit the documents for his NIS to see if he qualified for a lump sum or maybe a pension. Highly likely, I doubt he would qualified for the pension, but maybe a lump sum. So can he still do that because he's now 63?
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. He
Okay.
can.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, thanks, Rhonda. And
No
we
problem.
have one more tomorrow.
Right.
Tomorrow, are you there to ask your question?
Hi, good night. Thank you.
Hi, good night.
Okay, my question is regarding the calculation of the retirement pension. I'm not sure that I understood how the basic pension class is determined. That first
On the
part.
basis, right. So I would have told you what we do is find the average of all your contributions. So you would have, when you started to work and what you're getting now, I'm certain it's not the same salary, right? So what we do, we find an average and the system generates the class. So you put in all the different classes, the system pulls all the different classes from all your contributions, and then it generates a class. So it gives you the output, the outcome is an average of all the classes. And we use that, we go to the table to get the amount to be paid in that class, right? So it is determined by using an average of all the contributions. And we don't do it, we move from that manual process long time. The system pulls all the different contributions in the different class, and it sends an outcome for an average class. And the average class, there's a rate table as to how much we pay per class based on the contributions, right? And a corresponding increment.
Understood.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you, Ms.
Tamara.
Liz. Can persons request contribution statements online or must they go into the NIB office?
They can do it online.
They can do it online. Okay, so we're encouraging you to request your contribution statements online. There's another question. How do I add a beneficiary? This person is thinking about adding their son who is 31, just in case she passes away before the time, or if she chooses to retire at 58 and makes more than 1,300 contributions. For the other two. So she wants to know if she only made 1,300 contributions at age 58, can she do 2 years of voluntary contributions until she is 60?
Well, she can, but she already qualified for pension.
With the 1,300?
With the 1,300.
Okay,
right?
so it's really
And
what,
the 2 years will
750 to
make,
qualify?
yeah, and the 2 years will make a significant difference. It would.
Okay. All right, no problem.
And
I've
then
heard this.
if her son was 90, 31, if she can name him as a beneficiary, no,
Yes.
beneficiaries are stipulated in under the national insurance. Why? Children under the age of 19. All right.
Okay,
If, however, she turns 60,
yeah.
and let us say she turns 62, and she has months of or years of retirement money that she didn't collect. Let's say it went to a wrong account, and time we sort it out, she passes. The money will be there, and he could access it as through letters of administration. That's the only way he can what she has inside.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I know we would have done a webinar earlier, sometime last year, I guess, on wills and estate planning, but they both tied into each other. Now, this one I've heard quite often in terms of if contributions were taken out and the employer didn't remit this to NIB, what is their course of action?
All right, they can fill out an I-99. We will
NI-99.
we will go to that employer.
Yeah.
Under anonymity, we would not say John Doe sent us here or Jane Doe. We will just go, just to do a routine check and check the books, make sure that the name is there. If we see the name is not there, we will ask questions and ensure that he pays up with penalty and interest. He cannot go into the employee's salary and take out retroactive payments. Is the onus is on him to pay penalty and interest. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Can you just remind us, please, if someone hasn't been working for 2 years, but now they wish to make voluntary contributions, that is acceptable and okay?
No, they have 18 months in which their last employment to come into the NIB to be a voluntary.
18 months.
Yeah, try to be a voluntary contributor.
Okay. All right, I'm seeing someone else's hand up. So we'll just go for another 2 minutes, maybe 3 more questions, Ms. News, because I mean, it's really engaging. I like the participation, but I'm mindful of your time, having been with us.
What we can do is take 2 more questions and we'll take some of the questions in the chat.
Okay,
because they were
no problem.
a lot. All right.
So I'll take 2 online and then I'll go to the chat and I'll take 2 and then we will close off. So let me go to, is it Cheryl-Ann who has the question verbally?
Yes, it is. Hi, good night. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Ms. Smith. Okay, I'm piggybacking off of the question about the employer if they take the contribution but did not submit to NIB, right? If they are, you said that you all will go in and investigate if they are no longer, how that works out. If they are no longer existing, how would you get that information to find out?
Well, if it is that they're no longer in existence, we will check our system to see by you completing a 165 to see if he ever made payments, and if he made, they would apply the payments to your contributions. If not, we are sorry, you would have lost out. Hence the reason why when I'm doing education programs, I try to impress upon people, check your contribution status every year or every other year. All right, to ensure that it's being paid. And you must know if contributions are being paid. You will see some pattern. You may miss, although it may not be up to date, you might see 13 in a year, 30 in a year, 48 in a year. But if the employer is not paying for you, you won't see any at all. All right? So,
all right.
If it is that you've seen a trend where some contributions are short, you know that it's not fully updated. But if you see in a trend where there are no contributions at all, tell yourself the employer isn't paying. So that is why I say to people every single year or every other year. Every other year, check your contribution statement and ensure that their contributions are being paid.
I've started doing that for the last 6 years or so, but you know, back then, I don't think persons were really seeing the importance of the NIB and the NIS. I don't think they were taking it as serious as how persons are. But thank you very much.
They are, yeah. You're welcome.
Okay, and just for the benefit, Ms. Nurse, of those who might have missed it, can you just share with us again, where can persons go to check their contributions?
Online, they could go onto our website, www.nibtt.net, and then they have contribution statement request.
Okay, thank you.
I understand it's okay.
Yeah, good. So there's another question verbally from Deborah Robinson.
Right, Deborah.
Deborah, you can go. Hi, Deborah.
Deborah.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
I wanted to know, what is the process when a person starts to work but the employer doesn't pay any NIS on their behalf? Do you have any right to, how do you make your employer pay on your behalf because you're working, but they're not paying and you're aware of
All
it?
right. Once it's a contract of service and you're working for at least $200 a week, and you know he's not paying for you, you come in and you fill out that NI-99, which is the complaint form. Come into the NIB, fill out that complaint form, and we are going to go after that employer.
Oh,
All right?
this is information young people need to be aware of. Because I've worked many places and they did not pay
Yeah.
NIS, you know, and it
Yeah.
was, you know, the money was more than that. So it's
So
good.
let
This
me,
is very valuable information.
right, so let me tell you how they are becoming more and more aware. We have the privilege of engaging OJT every month, sometimes twice a month, and they take on 400 young persons in one per month, right? In a cycle per month. So we tell them about registration, the registration process, and then we have we engage in a lot of outreach programs and that kind of thing. So the word is spreading. It is spreading.
It is spreading,
Okay.
thank God.
Yes,
Very good
yeah.
program. Very, very good
Yes.
program.
Okay. One more question. No problem, Deborah. So can you tell us what year the benefit to the estate came into the effect? And this is a question because this person's mom passed away, and when they went to the ARIMA office, they were told that she died before the age of 65, so there was no benefit to be accessed.
She died before the age of 65.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that. The thing is, if she was a contributor,
Yeah.
she must have been contributing, huh? And if she received a lump sum payment, they wouldn't have any benefit to collect because the grant, once you receive the grant, remember when I spoke about the grant, it would have been
Yes.
3 times what she
Yeah.
plus the employer put into the system, so there would have been nothing, right? But what she can do is send me the information, I can check, verify it, and give her a response.
Okay, no
Right?
problem. I see her hand is up. Maybe she wants to bring a bit more clarity to the question that she put in the chat. Stephanie, would you like to come off mute and just share or clarify for us? Stephanie?
Thank you. Thank you kindly. Good night to everyone. Listeners, I really appreciate this presentation because, you know, when mommy passed, it was really shocking what we heard. So when I heard your presentation tonight, I'm like, okay, do I go in now at this 99th hour, which is very, very late after her passing? She passed in 1999.
Right.
So can you guide me? She worked in the ministry for over 30, 40 years, and she made all her contributions. Back then, we were not really that okra with, you know, checking on the contributions, but I have always kept up with the National Insurance Board because of my brother being in the system and I have to care for him. So, you know, when you said that, I says maybe I should engage you offline, you know,
Yeah.
just to save the time at this
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
Right, so
No
that's not
problem.
a problem.
Yes.
Send me
Thank
an
you
email and I'll
kindly.
respond accordingly, yeah, no problem.
Yes. Pleasant night. Bye-bye.
Okay, so Ms.
Okay.
Ness, we can go on as we know because the engagement, as I said, it is fantastic. Excellent presentation, lots of questions. So it means that we really need to keep this education going. I'm tempted to say, without even checking with you, we need a part 2, even if it's a Q&A, but because there is so much interest and so much scenarios, etc., for this whole topic. All in all, though, fantastic session. I'd like to thank you, ably supported by Ms. Hamlet on the call for this webinar on transitioning to retirement. You really gave us this comprehensive guide to help us understand the process and what needs to be done. I would have mentioned earlier, for those who wanted to listen to it again in case you missed anything, we will be sending out a thank you email with the link to the recording in that thank you email, and the recording will also be uploaded in the library section on SECU's website. In that thank you email, as I mentioned, we will also include Mrs. Nurse's her email address and the link to NIB's website, where you would be able to navigate and, you know, go through and see which forms you're interested in, if you wanted to request your contribution statements, etc. Darvel, he is on this call. He works at SECU, and I would really like to thank him for supporting us on this with IT and other related matters on this session. I'd also like to thank Kelly.
All right,
We have one or two other members. Sorry?
We cannot leave without answering Lystra's question.
Oh,
She said her
Lystra.
hand was up for a very long time.
Oh my. Well, I'm not seeing, I'm no longer seeing the screen, but okay, let me take Lystra's question, which would be the last question. Lystra, thank you for your patience. You can go ahead with your question. Lystra, are you there?
Okay.
Lystra.
Okay. All right.
Or maybe we lost her. I took too long to ask her to contribute. I must apologize for that. So yes, so we would share. Yes, yeah. She can maybe send an email when I send the email address. All in all, as I mentioned, a very good session. And I'm seeing someone is saying, yes, we need to have a part 2 where we will invite persons to participate in the sharing. So just in conclusion, thank you again for joining today's session. I do encourage all of you, we have our 71st AGM, that is SECU's 71st Annual General Meeting. That takes place on Thursday, the 4th of April, that is this Thursday at 5 p.m. And it would be in the Center of Excellence. So come on down, participate, engage, meet members of the board, meet committee members, etc. And yeah, so the Education Committee continues to, you know, like put on different webinars for members with different topics. So this was really an interesting one. And Ms. Nurse, we want to have a part 2. So look out for my call on this. Thank you again. Well done to you. Very informative, enlightening. So thank you everyone for attending, and enjoy your dinner and night when it comes. Okay?
Right. No, it's not a problem. We'll speak offline about the other sessions.
Yes, no problem at all. Yeah.
Okay,
so thank you again and have a good night.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity.
Yes,
bye.
Okay, bye.